Hi, I'm Miss Erica from the Alameda String Academy, and we're here to talk about chorus from Judas Maccabaeus. And I'm going to give you a few tips to make the most out of this beautiful, beautiful piece. The first thing is the rhythm. I think rhythm is so key to learning a piece. And if you're having trouble with the dotted note, okay, the dotted quarter note plus the eighth rhythm, I encourage you to check out my tutorial that's separate on clapping, tapping, and saying the rhythms from this particular piece. So check out clap, tap, say, dotted quarter note plus eighth note, and that will give you a good start to know how to feel the rhythm of this piece, the speed of the notes. One of the things that makes this piece so beautiful is that it actually was originally intended to be sung, and so we want to play it as if our bow is the breath of the song, and so it's going to be very smooth and legato, which means smooth. Okay, and so we want to try to achieve that even in places like measure 3, where it has the lines over the note plus the slur marking. That means they want it to be tenuto, or as sustained as possible. Each note should be as long as possible with a very gentle, very gentle stop. So measure 3 would sound like this. Okay, that's very different than the notes that we might have seen in, for instance, Suzuki Book 1. You have a similar marking with the slur, but with dots over each of the note, and that is a staccato stroke. That means they should be really quite separate, and that would sound like this. But instead we want to have a little bit more length to the notes. Okay, so we really want to make sure that all of our fingers on our bow are working for us so that we can kind of nudge the bow along and have just a very gentle stop. Okay, another thing that's going to help us with this piece is going to be using our fourth finger, okay? And if you're looking at the version of this in Suzuki Book 2, you'll see that there are actually some fourth fingers suggested. And I really encourage you to use that. Maybe if you're, feeling like you need to take your time with it, learn the piece first with the open string. And then as you get more comfortable with the rhythm of the piece and the sound of it, then you can add your fourth fingers in. That's a really great tactic, a really great strategy to kind of balance out the many things that are going on in this piece. But starting in measure 5, we actually have fourth finger comes up 2 times in those 4 measures that follow. And what I'd like you to notice is that the first time you use that fourth finger, it comes after you're building up on your fingers all on the A string. Okay, and so it's pretty straightforward. We just need to make sure that there's enough space between our fingers here, and that that gives us the chance to let our fourth finger drop without having to try to pry it away from the other fingers, if that makes sense. So as we put our fingers down, we make space, and we think about space from the base of our fingers. And our fingers should be over the string. Now this next one is a fourth finger that comes on a whole new string. We're playing a scale going down. And so we really want to find a place where we can prepare our fourth finger for the pivot over to the new string, okay? And I like for that to happen on the note before. We have plenty of time because the beats are on the slower side. And so what I would practice here is getting your fourth finger ready, just like we did on the scale going up in measure 5. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna have that finger ready, and then when we're playing the B, the note before the A, we're going to swivel our elbow just a teeny bit, and the whole thing is, the whole frame that our hand makes is going to rotate. And it's going to rotate that fourth finger so that instead of being over the E string, it's over the A. So I'm just doing a simple little swing with my elbow. The violin is not moving really that much, okay? I'm just swinging it a teeny bit so that my finger can move from one string to the other. And when that fingertip with a round finger, as round as we can get it, is over the A, then we plop it down. Okay, so it looks like this. Ha 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 ha. I did a few wiggles. Watch out for that as you play. Yeah, make sure that your hand is all the way back. And here we go. Okay, so we see how we started on the A string. Our arm is on the A string. And then we bring the entire hand over just with a simple, gentle, very small swing of our elbow so that our fingertips are now over the D string. Okay, moving on to measure 13, we have the introduction of an accidental. Okay, and an accidental just means that it's a note that is out of place from the original key signature. Okay, and if you look at the key signature, which is at the very beginning of each line after the treble clef, this piece has one sharp, the F sharp, and that tells us that we're in the key that only ever has one sharp, which is G major, and you would be practicing your G major scale along with this piece to help you get your fingers kind of used to the spacings for this piece and the finger patterns. But the accidental pops up to say, just for this measure, we're breaking the rules. The rules are different just for this measure. And instead of no D sharps, only D naturals, measure 13, just for that measure, has a D sharp, okay? And when you see the next bar line, then that rule goes away and you go back to D natural. Okay, and then you'll see in measure 15 that you actually see it marked, a D natural in parentheses. If you're looking at the Suzuki book 2, you'll see that D natural in parentheses. That's a courtesy accidental. They're doing that to be polite, to say, uh-oh, we're going back, just in case you were wondering, we're going back to the key signature. We're going back to D natural. Don't play D sharp, whatever you do, okay? And then we have a C sharp instead. So what a fun little rule bender line that we've got here. So let's talk about how to play this D sharp. This will probably be a new note for many people. And now remember that when we have a sharp is actually one way of spelling a note, okay? Each note name has a natural version, a sharp version, and a flat version, okay? And they all sound different. If you have the natural, okay, like say my A natural here. If I play A sharp, I'm gonna take that A and I'm gonna go up a half step, okay? And if I want to go to play an A flat, then I'm gonna go a half step down, okay? And in this case, it's on the D string. Let's take a new note. Let's take that D here, okay? We've got D, our normal third finger D, the way you probably always played it is going to be this D. If we played a D sharp, a D flat, we would go down a half step. Okay? Which incidentally is the same exact place you would play your C sharp. That spot on the fingerboard has its own multiple sets of names, and you can get into that whole fun ball of wax another time. But with respect to the D, we have D and we go down a half step, we get D flat, back up to D. And if I want D sharp, I need to go up a half step. Okay, and here is the way that I would practice this when you're learning Judas Maccabaeus, okay? We're going to do a count up, 4-finger count up on the A string in the key signature. So A, B, C natural, D, 4-finger E. Okay, it looks like this. Okay, and right now we just have all of the notes that we would play in the G major scale or in Judas Mac, just the way that they fit with the key signature. Okay, so to find the D sharp from here, we're going to take that third finger and scoot it up so that it's snuggling up against our fourth finger. So we're gonna add a few notes. We're gonna add a little turnaround when we get there, okay? So we're gonna play a regular 3, and then we're gonna play 4, high 3, 4. So we'll do the whole thing from the bottom. Okay, and from this side, here's how this looks, okay? Okay, and what I would like you to try to watch for as you get used to this motion of placing your fingertip for your third finger higher is that we want to try to maintain our round fingers, what I like to call our umbrella or our rainbow fingers. We're always keeping that curve. We're always playing on our fingertips so that, if we play with flat fingers, we have no way to move around. But if we play with our fingertips, then we have plenty of space to move around because our fingers can flatten out or, wiggle and bend in different ways just because they're round to start with, okay? So now that we know what that D sharp is supposed to sound like, how do we put it into the piece, okay? How do we prepare our hand in the moment to know where that D sharp should go, or in fact, where our E should go, the fourth finger E, because we're coming from the F sharp on the D string, the previous measure. So we come from this. So how to get from our second finger, our high second finger on the D string, over to a fourth finger on the A string, the E, plus the high D sharp. Oh my gosh. Okay, so what are we gonna do? We're gonna practice another small little set of notes to help us place our fingers and feel the space. So we're gonna play, we're not gonna worry about the D sharp until after we put our fourth finger down, okay? One problem at a time. So we're gonna play the F sharp and then the D natural, our third finger, and we're gonna end up with our half note spacing. We're gonna play F, D, E. And then as we play it, we'll play that E, we'll bring our third finger up into position for the D sharp. So it's gonna look like this. F sharp first, D, E, and then D sharp. And let's go back to E. Okay? So and the reason why we go back to the fourth finger E, for this little exercise, is to help us reinforce how that 3 and 4 feels, because they're not really used to being together, okay? We're sort of building that muscle group up, okay? And of course in the piece, you are going to play fourth finger E, third finger D sharp, and then an open E. So make sure that you keep that straight in your head, that you're gonna play a slightly different fingering when you actually go and apply it to the piece, okay? This is just to help you get your mind around, how do I play this set of fingerings, okay? Once we've practiced this set, a couple times, and we can put it in rhythm. Long, short, long, and we can do short, long, short, long. And that one is going to be especially good because the rhythm is pretty quick when we play, okay, for the actual piece in measure 13. So always good to practice things in rhythms, and you end up speeding your fingers up and prepare them for applying it to your piece, so you're not trying to do something that's harder in your piece. You've already practiced the hard thing in your little note sets. So that's measure 13. I will play the entire line just so you can hear it. And I'm going to try to remember to play a D natural and a C sharp in measure 15. I'm going to go from measure 11. Okay, so good. There's another place where we have a fourth finger on a new string all by itself in measure 15. So that's another great place to practice your pivot or your elbow swing. Having your fourth finger ready, I would say practice having it ready over the fourth finger on the E string, the B, and just swing over, okay? And you can practice that. You can do little fourth finger push-ups, boom, 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 to get yourself ready for that movement. We really want to try to preserve our frame so that we can access each of the strings as we move from the same general position, so that we don't have one hand position for the E string and a different one for the D and a different one for the G. We just want to rotate around the neck of our violin. And you see my thumb is moving as well to help with that. So the whole hand is just going swoosh, 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 and keeping the same hand position around the violin. And that is going to really help you to not only move quickly over your string crossings, but to be really consistent into your intonation, which of course we really want when we're playing such a beautiful piece. All right, hope you enjoyed this tutorial on chorus from Judas Maccabaeus, and we'll see you again.